One of the best ways to improve your business is to have honest conversations in your business. And I know that sounds like an oversimplification, but as I've learned over the years and had many people tell me, they say I'm really good with tough conversations. All right. Now, as much as I like to take the credit for that, I got to be honest. I've taken the Enneagram test. If you haven't done it, you should go do it. And I figured out through taking this test that I score 99 as an achiever and 96 as a challenger. What does that mean? My natural innate gifting persona makeup that God gave me is that I score 99 as an achiever and I score 96 as a challenger. So if I don't feel as if I'm accomplishing things, I'm borderline depressed. And if things aren't seemingly well, I'm going to challenge it. So I'm going to challenge things always for the good. If I see somebody getting bullied, I'm going to challenge it. If I see somebody slacking on themselves, I'm going to challenge it. If I'm slacking on myself, I'm certainly going to challenge it. Right? So for me, as much as people like, man, I just respect your leadership, you're willing to have the tough conversations. By God's grace, I'm really blessed in this area that I don't even have to think about it. The things people have to consciously think about, I don't. But in this video, if you rock with me on this pod today, I'm going to help synthesize the way that you can have a better go at having difficult conversations with your employers, with your vendors, with your contractors, with yourself in order to further your business. Because problems left to themselves don't fix themselves, as you know. Any of y'all watching this right now that's a business owner, soon to be one, or even if you're in corporate America, you know what I'm talking about. Problems left to themselves don't fix themselves. The law of atrophy states that anything left to itself, it naturally leans into destruction as opposed to production, right? So if you don't shower for 3 days, what do? Your body errs on the side of smell, and not a good one, right? You got to do something about that to make it productive. So same is true with problems. Them left to themselves don't fix themselves, they only get worse. And for leaders, we have to step in and have difficult conversations to make them better. Welcome back. We back on the Believers in Business podcast. I'm your host, Brian Adamson. And I appreciate all my faithfuls. I appreciate all the ones that's been rocking with me, sharing this, getting this message out all across the globe. We are in multiple countries, and so appreciative for everybody that's been tuned in and locked in. And I don't have some big formulaic idea and plan for y'all today, but I do have some very specific steps by which you can take to get better in this area of having difficult conversations, right? And I want y'all to let me know in the comments. And many of y'all are very honest. Like, who really struggles in this area? I want to know. Okay, I want to know from you guys who really struggles, because part of the way to overcome it is to first be aware of it and acknowledge it, right? Awareness, acknowledgement, and then to actually go and do something about it. And I'm gonna help y'all with the do something about today, but I need y'all to be aware and acknowledge it. Okay. So the first and foremost, I think it's important for any business, big or small, to have a very clear mission statement and core values. Okay. And one of our core values is honesty. Another one is accountability. Another one is, Colossians 3:23 is essentially our mission statement for the company, right? Do all your work as if you're doing it for the Lord, not for man's approval, because you know that your reward and inheritance come from the Lord, right? So whether they pissed off at me or not, the essence of when you work here is that you doing your work as if you're doing it for the Lord, not for man's approval. If that ain't what you signed up for, then you ain't signed up to work here. So whether you feel a way about me or not, you should be doing your work as if you're doing it for him. You shouldn't be shortcutting the day because I upset you. You shouldn't be shortcutting the day because you don't feel like it. You should be operating as if you're doing it for him. Okay, so that's our mission statement. But then our core values support that in kindness, accountability, honesty, which is what we're about to touch on and go deeper on, integrity, attention to detail, right? These are all our core values. So when we start having issues with associates and we need to look and see, like, how do they measure up? Well, we start with that frame of looking at the mission statement and the core values. Takes the emotion out of it and makes it very objective, okay, which also helps for having very objective conversations. So just looking at this core value of honesty, and by the way, next to the core value of honesty, it says being truthful even when it hurts. That's a key. Being truthful even when it hurts, right? So everybody understands that it's a requirement if you're going to work with us that you got to be willing to be truthful even when it hurts. Why? Because I know that without doing that, you're going to have a lackluster and weak business that will soon break. Okay. And so at the core of all of this, we got to stop lying to ourselves and to others. We got to stop lying to ourselves and to others. You know when there's a problem. You know. I mean, we see it even in our marriages, right? We know that we got an issue with our spouse. We really don't want the smoke of having the necessary conversation. And so we avoid it. And we suppress it. And we suppress it. And then both parties act like that it's not the case. And we be fake about it. Because we just trying to go along and get along because we don't want to actually have to deal with the smoke. But what happens? I forget who said it. I forget which rapper said it, but they said, oh, it's Jay-Z. He say, it's only so long fake thugs can pretend, right? It's only so long fake thugs can pretend. What he's saying is if you're a studio gangster, like eventually you're going to run into a situation that's going to expose that, right? You can't extend and pretend. Not in business, not in real relationships, and not in any areas of importance in your life. Because things are only getting worse while you're pretending. So once we identify that there's a real issue with an individual, then we have to first assess what was our part in that issue. Whenever I got to have a difficult conversation with somebody, the first thing I have to be consciously aware of is what's my part in it. Why? Because otherwise, when you go to have a difficult conversation with somebody and you don't understand your part in it, then what is it going to seem like? An attack. Because you never took the time and responsibility, or as I like to call it, accountability, to find out where you was culpable. Because just because they are the problem don't mean you didn't have a part in the problem. Right? So we got to be aware of that one. Once we assess that and be honest with ourselves, even when it hurts, now we can go and address what the real issue is while making mention of the fact that as I looked at this totality of this situation, I have to own the fact of XYZ myself. But in that, I also see from your side XYZ thing, and it's causing XYZ thing to happen. Right? So as an example, let's just say that I gave somebody on my team a specific task to carry out or a project. Let's call it project, forget task. And they don't want to be micromanaged. Okay? And at the core of me, I don't really want to micromanage them anyway. Because why? People don't have to micromanage me. You give me something to do, I'm going to take it and run with it. If I got questions, I'll ask. Short of that, if I'm not reporting back to headquarters, it's because I'm knocking this thing out, right? So I like to manage in the same way I behave. However, as you become a leader, you have to understand that everybody has different types of tendencies, idiosyncrasies, and certain things that make certain people tick. And truth be told, some people are better managed when you are micromanaging initially to make sure that you're setting the right foundation and expectation before they get too far along and then they come back and it's garbage anyway and they got to redo it all over again. Okay. So yes, let's just say that they don't want to be micromanaged. And let's just say that you oblige them and you don't micromanage them initially. But then, as I said, they off to the races. They bring you something back. They excited to think that they did a good job and they did horrible. Now that's a difficult conversation you got to have. Yes or yes. But before you had that conversation, you got to raise your hand and say, technically, I did everything correct. They didn't want me to micromanage. I didn't. They came back with this garbage. I get to address it. But technically, technically. Above all else, you the leader. And regardless of what made them feel more comfortable about not being micromanaged in the beginning, you have to know best how to get the best result out of your personnel. So you got to take ownership in this. And I had to do this. Hey, listen. First of all, I apologize to you. Why? Because I knew better than to send you out there without a little more high touch direction. Out of respect for your request, I didn't do it, but that don't make it right because I should have known better from empirical data and previous experience that I needed to be a little more involved in what I was. As a result of that, you went off based on the direction you thought was the appropriate one, and these are the things that don't meet the mark. Right? It's a difficult conversation, but one that's necessary. Y'all getting this so far? So we got to start with ourselves. We got to stop lying to ourselves. And the more that we're truthful and honest with ourselves, then it's easier to be truthful and honest with others. Okay? Another good mechanism for this for employees is to have evaluations. It's so funny we do them all the time in corporate America, but then when we become business owners, it's like, oh man, I don't want to do no eval. But they need feedback the same way you needed feedback when you worked in corporate. And here's what it's also great for. It's just like getting a progress report home before your report card when you was in school. I don't know if they do that no more or not. But it helps to give you a barometer of how you're doing before that report card show you truly how you're doing. So when you give people evals, then it should help them to be able to understand where they at so that if in fact you have to fire somebody, it's not a shock. Now it may be a surprise, but it's not a shock. It's not like, how dare you, right? It's like you were there for these last two evals, right? I told you sucked then. You just didn't do nothing about it. So you officially suck now and not here no more, right? So, but it's important. It's your responsibility as their leader to be able to give them these touch points and have these difficult yet necessary conversations with them along the way to give them a true understanding of where they at, right? As humans, God created us all to be contributors to something in life, right? Our lot in life is contribution. So we need to understand what is our contribution, good or bad. We need to understand that. Our human nature needs to understand that. We need that feedback. So we have to make sure that we're giving people that feedback in some type of interval, whether it be quarterly, semi-annually, annually, to give them that feedback so they know where they're at. Well, what does that also do? It gives you an objective format called evaluation to truly let them know how they're doing, as opposed to every other day over coffee. Hey, that thing you did the other day, right? And then it's just like they don't like you now because it's like you just picking on them. So figure out a structured way. For some of you, maybe it's you do weekly one-on-ones, right? I know some corporations that do that. Others of you, maybe it's like, hey, once a month we gonna huddle, right? I already interact with you enough on the day-to-day. Once a month we gonna huddle. We just gonna get together, talks about wins and losses, right? Maybe that's a team quarterly meeting. I don't know what your best way of doing it is, but there should be structured, formal settings for you to do that. I think it takes more the emotion out of it. It takes more the sting out of it, but it allows the very thing that needs to happen. Okay. Another one is business partners, man. Look, there's a reason why they call things forecasts. There's a reason why they call things projections. There's a reason why they call things business plans. You know what all those are synonymous with? No guarantees. No guarantees. Look, if you got a thing called business, one thing I can guarantee you is that it ain't gonna never go to plan. Not never. Not even never. So what you gotta do? You gotta, one, understand that. You gotta, two, have very clear expectations up front with your business partners as much as possible. And you have to, number three, which is really number one, have difficult conversations when things don't go as planned. You may have investors on the project. You may have, real partners. You know what I mean? Like, beyond just silent investors, you may have like real general partners within the business that maybe their personality hasn't been jiving, and you feel like they overtalk you and you're not heard, and you know, you got to address those things. Even though they may seem to be more of the aggressor, and you kind of scared and intimidated that they may blow up and all the rest, you got to be able to have that conversation. Why? Because the problem left unattended, it only gets worse. And then by the time you really address it, you're going to lose your mind. Now it ain't even received well. You see what I'm saying? That's a much bigger issue. My wife texting me right now. Let me put this on silent before she mess up my audio. Y'all know what I'm saying? Before she mess up my audio. But you got to have those conversations, right? There's going to be other times where, yeah, based on the projections and all the rest of it, it didn't work out the way it was supposed to. You got to go have that conversation with your investors. Hey, look, by the way, before, this is a prerequisite before having any difficult conversation. Go get your facts together. See, a lot of the time, we also find ourselves in trouble because we looking for somewhere to go vomit. That's not their responsibility to clean up your vomit. It's your responsibility as the leader to first go be honest with yourself, to then go look at the facts, go look at the objectivity of the situation, and then go report the facts and have that difficult conversation. There's going to be other times where you got an investor that don't understand the very nature of what that means. Oh, we got a cash call. Yeah, that means we're short on the money based on what we projected. You're the investor. So I need you as the investor to make another contribution into the business, because your part of ownership is because you're the investor. And they don't want to always hear that. Right? What you mean more money? Well, because there's more problems than we anticipated. Right? And my role in this is not your role, and your role ain't my role. But this is your role. Now, if you can't do it, that's fine, but we got to talk about it, though. And I can't just be over here trying to shoulder everything and be Superman, because that ain't my role. Y'all pick one up I'm putting down right now? So we have to be very clear on everybody, their capacity, their role, all the rest of it, right? So that's business partners. Well, what about contractors and vendors? You pay somebody to do some work for you. It come back as no bueno. Maybe you like the person. Y'all start to develop a relationship. But it still don't negate the fact that the work is no bueno and you paying for it and it's running your business into the ground. Maybe it's a friend or a family member. You don't want to offend nobody, but you dying as a result of what they're doing. Again, you got to take emotion, names, title, relationship out of it. You got to look at the facts. You know what? Since we brought y'all on to do X, Y, Z for us, the output has been this, and our business has declined as a result of it. So you mean to tell me that, so you don't like my stuff now? You said when I gave it to you that you liked it, and now you telling me. I understand that clearly this is your baby, this is your thing. I respect that. But I'm telling you as a vendor of mine, I'm your client. Right now, we're not cousins. Right now, we're not 20-year friend. Right now, I'm your client, and I'm telling you as your client, I'm paying you for services. These services that are rendered, my business is declining as a result of it. So what I'm trying to explain to you is, I need you to help me help you get paid. Because if my business keep declining, then I don't have the money to pay you for the service. So I need you to help me help you get paid. That's the conversation I'm having with you right now. Emotion out of it. Right? So we got to be honest with ourselves. We got to be honest with our employees. We got to be honest with our business partners. We got to be honest with our contractors. because you can't win the game pretending. And here's the better part. People who are also self-aware and not naive and delusional or have convenient amnesia, they know they're sucking. They at least think it. They kind of like, I don't know for sure. They ain't said nothing, but, ooh, I don't know. This one, we just kind of getting by on this. They know. So you need to have the conversation necessary to correct it. Why? Because you're either going to be able to coach them up or you're going to have to coach them out. One of the two. But you cannot have success in business by thinking you're going to stay in the middle. There is no such thing. There is no such thing. What happens when you put a car in neutral? Either it's going to stay stuck or it's going to roll in whatever direction it's being pulled in. Sound very familiar, don't it? When you don't have difficult conversations in your business, you just like that car in neutral. You either going to stay stuck or you're going to roll in the direction you're being pulled in, which will be downward for those that was trying to figure out which direction. It will be downward for you. Let me know if this was helpful. It's one of those things that, again, I do by default, that the others around me always like giving me attaboys on. And I'm considering doing a training on this where I could take a deeper dive and break down crucial confrontations, critical conversations, all the above. Let me know if y'all be interested in that. Maybe I'll do a little cohort of sorts and do a training on this for leaders of having difficult conversations. And give y'all some frameworks that obviously I couldn't do on this YouTube, on this pod today. But I'd be open to doing it though, for sure. But again, if this was helpful, like, share, subscribe, all the things. I appreciate y'all. And I'll see you in the next one.